I don't know if we need the microphones, but
it makes us look professional.
yeah, let's stick with the microphones. Any help will do, right? Okay, thank you all for coming. First of all, yeah, thank you for coming and supporting Town Festival. I mean, it's such a great thing for the culture, creativity, community of Halifax. Chatting to Michael Ainsworth, who runs the Greyston last week, I said to him, you know, why do a festival? You know, what's it bring you in addition to just putting on a series of events and gigs? And the main thing he said was it gives you this lateral freedom to put something a little different on. And I think this is a great example of that. So a wonderful opportunity for us to sit down and talk to someone who's had an incredibly interesting career in the music industry. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So it's hard to know where to start.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean you've had your spells with the Cuban Boys, the Barn Dance Boys, Spray,
Ricky does.
duo.
The Space Cats, the dance track, did Eurovision Song Contest, and in the past 10 years, very, very little indeed.
Very understood you. When you look back at that full kind of rich history of loads of different projects, different collaborations, loads of ideas, do you think is that reflective of you as a person, as a personality?
Yeah,
I had a restless nature.
Completely incapable of focusing on anything to any great success at all. As soon as you have one good idea, you have another good idea, and you need to extrapolate that idea almost immediately. Which is my failing, really, being unable to continue with any project whatsoever. Which is why I've had four one-hit wonders in the UK.
And were you like that as a child growing up? Were you always kind of quite, you know, full of energy and running from one thing to another?
I suppose I was. I was never musical as a child. This is the interesting thing about it. I never had any particular musical inclinations as a youngster. But I was more obsessed with cars, to be honest. And that was my focus as a child. But yeah, I was kind of exuberant and excitable, I suppose.
I guess also you've had, like I say, so many kind of projects there. I guess there are a bunch of ideas that didn't kind of make it to fruition as well, and they're on the cutting room floor. Would that be fair to say?
Oh yeah, I worked with Daz Sampson. Don't ignore that. For many years, and we had all sorts of projects going on. Every month we'd come up with something new, and we'd get industry interest in it, and so we made money out of getting things signed, which never came out. There was a thing called, we had a project called Philo Bedder, which was like a dance thing, and it was huge in about 2007, 2008 in the clubs, and nobody's ever heard of it. It was number one in the Spanish dance charts or something. It came out there one, Blanco y Negro. But again, it's no part of the cultural formament of anything whatsoever. There's so many of these things we did. Blazing Squad, the pop group Blazing Squad, we had them in the studio, we did a song with them, nobody's ever heard it. And so many things that just go by the wayside.
Are there any that particularly you look back on now and think, God, I wish that had made it through to the finish line?
Oh, yes. We had a song called Mellow, which we ended up doing as a Space Cat. It was like a helium high energy dance track. And again, it was one of those things everybody in the industry was going on about and raving about, and it just never happened. We had two singles as Space Cats that never happened, and one of them was another happy hardcore track that became our Eurovision song eventually. So that sort of supplanted everything. Everything gets knocked out of the way by other ideas and other projects and more successful ones, and the good things sort of get forgotten about.
Okay, cool. So you've had such an interesting pop career. It seems boring to start at the beginning and go through, so I thought we'd just dive randomly-ish into different sectors of it.
Fair.
And I thought we'd do so by YouTube comments. So I'm going to read out a couple of YouTube comments. You're going to guess which song if that's okay.
Yeah, it's a market
It's kind of tenuous, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. So, first of all, geniuses are never appreciated in their time, said Robert Wood of one of your songs.
Oh.
Any ideas?
Am I dead or something? Is that what you suggested?
I'll give you another YouTube comment on the same song,
yeah.
which might illuminate it a little more. The best white rapper since Kanye.
Oh, is this about Daz? Daz Sampson? Is it our Eurovision song?
It's the Eurovision song, yes. And the final clincher comment was, Europe wasn't ready for this true
No,
art.
it wasn't.
So could you tell us about your Eurovision experience?
Eurovision journey.
Yeah.
We've done this track with Blazing Squad. It was supposed to be like Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life. It was going to be all these scruffy urchins and a rapper, and it was going to be grimy and dirty and all sorts of lots of fun. But then Daz decided he'd front it, and it became sort of all man-made fibres and neon trainers. But no, we did it with Blazing Squad, and Daz had a hit with the Uniting Nations in 2005 or 2004. And the Eurovision people got to him and wanted Uniting Nations to do Eurovision, but they were too cool to do that. But Daz said, actually, we've got this other song we've done. And it was a guy called Richard Park, who was on Fame Academy. He was like the headmaster of Fame Academy. He was running it, and he went bananas for this song. He absolutely loved it. So out of nowhere, this silly little demo that had been knocking around in my house was suddenly at the BBC, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. We were done. It was the Making Your Mind Up thing. It was us versus Anthony Costa, Kim Marsh, some girls from a Scottish soap opera. All this to represent the UK in Eurovision. And Jonathan Ross was on the show, and he said, Daz has to win. And that was it. We trounced everybody by some considerable margin. And we're off at the taxpayers' expense to Greece. Lovely 5-star hotel. But it was fun. You know, it was also kind of depressing because we kind of knew that when we got back it would all be over. But you try and live in the moment, I suppose.
And what was it like when you were actually out there in Greece? I always think this Eurovision sounds like this crazy other world that's kind of detached from the world.
We were sat in the bowels of this great big, whatever the Greek auditorium was, and just thousands of fans just flocking you all the time, trying to steal badges and get pictures and whatnot. I did have some pictures. I figured I'd bring some pictures in case I thought of anything to illustrate the passage of the story. And I did have some Eurovision pictures, which and there we are. It's me and Daz at the hotel. Yeah, and that was it. That was the dressing room door, attacked by many passers-by. And there's Lordy going past. Lordy won the competition. And I saw them in the hotel swimming pool in full garb, which was quite exciting. But no, you can see, we're in the bowels of these sort of auditorium. Oh, there we are with the results coming through. We didn't win, by the way, in case it spoilers. We came 19th, and we were appalled by the situation. But yeah, there's the green room. And we never got a 12-pointer either, so we never actually got on camera sitting in the green room waving, as they always cut to you. When you get 12 points in Eurovision, there's me. I think I'll dance with Pete Waterman. Because Pete Waterman ultimately signed the record in the end, sort of secretly. But no, yeah, like we're in the bowels of this enormous auditorium, and people just coming in and shoving you out the way to speak to Daz, and the mad, obsessive fans who know everything about everything.
I mean, I guess in some ways, it strikes me that Eurovision is kind of a perfect stage for you in a weird way, isn't it? Because it allows you to kind of do fun, animated, inflated things. Would you ever be tempted to go back to that?
We'd love to go back. We'd love to go back. We tried the following year. We thought it'd be a funny idea for Daz to, a good idea for Daz to go back and reclaim his crown. And we had two people who were going to duet with him. One was Jessica Garlick, who had come 5th, I think, for the UK a couple of years earlier. And the other was Carol Decker from Tapau. And they were all up for it to go back and help us achieve our goal, but the BBC thought it was a far too silly idea. And we weren't allowed, if you can believe such a thing.
Scandalous. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to dive into another section of your career with YouTube comments.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so see how to get along with it. Zach Harsty said of this song, it's a song to self-isolate to.
So what, sorry, so what?
It's a song to self-isolate to.
Oh, okay.
Don't know if that gives any clues. Second one. Your work is like injecting concentrated internet disco into your brain in a good way.
Well, is that House to Dance? Or was it called Nature Video?
I'll give you a final clue.
I'm a very one-note kind of artist.
What is this thing? A rat?
Oh,
Sounds and Dance. Yes.
It's Sounds and Dance.
Yeah, it's Sounds and Dance, and its original form.
Oh.
Yeah. So, could you tell about Cuban Boys? Could you tell us about the start of the Cuban Boys, and in particular that song and how it launched?
Well, the
really?
Cuban Boys are fascinating. So yeah, right, sir, there, so in the front row. The Cuban Boys is a fascinating story. Me and my sister had a 4-track port studio for years, like the 90s. We recorded loads of songs on it. Nobody paid us any attention whatsoever. Nothing at all. We couldn't get anywhere with our little ideas. Until I sampled 4 seconds of a Frank Chatsfield big band record. It was a song called Cuban Boy. And it was the only thing that would fit in the sampler, this very basic sampler we had. And it sort of looped round and round and a hip-hop beat in it. And we sent it to John Peel, and against all the odds, John Peel played it within 2 weeks. And we suddenly realised we had this thread of success we could see in the distance that we grabbed hold of and clung onto. And suddenly started making all these songs that were sort of exactly the same. I plundered my dad's record collection for samples. So we spent the summer just recording quite rubbish dance records using junk shop samples and getting on Peel. We now had this direct conduit to John Peel on Radio 1, and we were getting national airplay with pretty much everything we sent him every week. The year ended with us doing a Peel session and a gig at Rough Trade. It was a Rough Trade gig, that was it. And so we would sort of come from nowhere to doing these exciting things without any effort whatsoever. Then it all sort of went a bit, not sour, but we sort of thought we were going to, have to do it again, look at that. Unbelievable, what an amateur. We thought we were going to be pop stars immediately, we weren't. But we did this song sampling the then popular Amsterdam's craze. You saw that the Amsterdam's website, all the dancing hamsters, but the audio file would save itself to your computer cache. So I found it in the cache and stuck it in the music software, stuck a beat behind it, looped it around for 6 hours, and we realised it was a sensation. We never thought Peel would play it. We sent it to him, but on a CD, it was like the 3rd track on the CD. But he did, and then he played it the next week, and then he played it the next week, then he played it twice in a week, and he said that it was the most requested song he'd ever had since God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols. At which point, that's when chaos reigned. We had all these major labels phoning us and stuff like that. It was the sort of thing that if it was in a biopic about a band, you would not believe it. It's just too on the nose, it's too easy. So we were down there with BMG, EMI, Parlophone, all the big names giving us props with this one song. And we ended up spending the summer of '99, like a year after we formed, recording an album on EMI's money, which was very exciting, I'm sure you admit. We were signed, I'll get this out of the way. Our management, we were signed. Yes, sir. No, we were signed by a man called Jonathan King, who we remember for being famous in the 80s for presenting Entertainment USA and nothing else. So a bit later, when he's going to be quiet lately, hasn't he, Jonathan King? When he disappeared off the scene, our career sort of disappeared with him, to be honest, which was a bit of a shame. But, not the worst thing that's happened.
So I have to ask there, first of all, what was John Peel like? I guess through this relationship you forged with him, you got to know him a little.
What a nice man. And he was a very nice man, and he was always very humble. Every time we saw him, we sort of went, oh, thanks for playing our stuff, you're the best, etc., etc. And he was also the attitude that, well, you made it. I mean, you did the hard work. So he was always very much like that. And we sometimes go down to Maida Vale when there were live sessions on his show, and he'd let us hang out with him in the control room and stuff. And he was going to come on top of the pops with us, funnily enough. We asked him if he'd come on top of the pops and play the mandolin like he did with Rod Stewart in the 70s. And he agreed to it, he said he would. To the extent he had his own dressing room at Elstree, but unfortunately he was sidetracked having to record something for Radio 4 that day, so it never actually happened. But I always think that could have made the Cuban Boys, because rather than the Cuban Boys being completely forgotten about now, which they sort of are, we'd always be on the old clip shows now with John Peel playing mandolin on our Top of the Pops performance. It was, these moments of success sort of slide by fleetingly.
So it's interesting. So I guess with what I always think about with John Peel is he just likes what he likes, right? He has no kind of filter, which I loved about him. So he likes a thing, and that's it. He plays it. Then you talk about dealing with major labels. I think of them as kind of opposite. They're like lots of filter, lots of how do we position this, sell it, market it, etc. Makes me think, what did major labels make of you? Because I imagine they looked at it and think, yeah, this is not what we're used to dealing with, and you're probably not towing the line of kind of falling to their.
We looked like a scruffy indie band. So whenever we turned up at places, people were surprised that we weren't the Venga Boys or something like that. When we went to EMI, we interestingly enough signed to the catalogue division of EMI. Like they were responsible for the reissues and things like that. So it was this kind of paramilitary wing of EMI that was stuck out in the outskirts of nowhere. They'd recently licensed 2 singles, Sunscreen by Baz Luhrmann and Witch Doctor by the Cartoons, and they wanted to do a single of their own, and that's why we sort of ended up there. So they were sort of quite, not avant-garde in their approach, but they weren't the corporate, they weren't towing the corporate line that they perhaps should have done, because they were slightly out of the main EMI's view, as it were. So we had all the benefits of the EMI major label system, but also nobody's really paying attention to us, so we could pretty much do what we wanted. That's why the song was called Cognoscenti versus Intelligentsia, because I gave it a stupid title and the assumption that somebody sensible would make us change it, like EMI would say, or call it Hamsterdam, or you'll get a job. But nobody ever did, and it ended up coming out as Cognoscenti versus Intelligentsia, to the surprise of everybody, me included. I don't know if it would have been a #1 if we called the Amsterdam song, but it wouldn't have hurt.
Okay, brilliant. Ready for more YouTube comments?
Oh, go on.
Okay.
That's all right.
Let me find my second page. So, where are we going? Sorry. So of this song, someone said, "Why did I watch this? Why did I watch this like fucking 20 times?"
Could be anything, couldn't it?
Could be any of them, right? Second one, Phil Parker says, "This is fabulous and camp."
That could be anything.
Could be. And finally, this song reminds me of getting drunk with my brother on Bacardi. Giddy up, giddy up.
Oh, it's Rhinestone Cowboy.
There we go.
Well, yes. Of course, as I said, Jonathan King was our manager, and he vanished from the scene for reasons I can't even remember. We sort of got dropped by EMI and our publishers, social media, after that, because they felt because we were very much Jonathan King's band, the industry thought we were tainted. So it was a bit of a depressing 2001. But then I met this bloke called Daz Sampson, who had been in a band called Bus Stop and had a hit with Kung Fu Fighting. And he had this idea to do Rhinestone Cowboy in a big Wally party way. And for some reason, he thought I would be. I'd never met him before, but he thought of me as being the perfect person to help him achieve this. So he came around my house and we made this demo of Rhinestone Cowboy. And that was at Christmas 2001. And by January or February, I think we'd found a deal for it. But we couldn't find somebody to sing it. We'd sampled a big chunk of Rhinestone Cowboy. It had a Euro disco backing. Daz rapping over it. Now, it's easy to clear the songwriting royalties for a sample, but if you're going to use the actual sound recording, then it gets very complicated. You've got to pay loads and loads of money to the people who own the mechanical rights. So the idea was to re-record the sample, so it ends up being sort of essentially a cover version. And we spent 3 or 4 months trying to find like a Stars in Their Eyes impersonator to do a good Glenn Campbell, and it was impossible. And then suddenly one day, Daz phoned me up on a Thursday and said, somebody at BMG has suggested we use the real Glenn Campbell. And nobody thought he'd ever do it, so that's why it took so long to do. But he's agreed, and we're going to Phoenix on Tuesday. So we went out to Phoenix, rented a car, and drove to Glenn's house. And he recorded Rhinestone Cowboy for us there and then. And then we came home. And it was bewildering, because we were just these 2 pale, scally, jet-lagged Mancunians who had sort of turned up out of nowhere, and then he let us into his house and recorded this song, and he could not have been nicer. Well, it was a good job we didn't know we sort of knew he was famous, obviously, but it was kind of a good job we didn't know he was such a legend, because we'd have been intimidated slightly by that. And as it was, we just turned up at this old man's house and recorded a song, and we went home. It was only afterwards we thought, oh, we should have nicked something.
Brilliant. I mean, yeah, that's a megastar, isn't it, to work with.
But again, it wasn't like. Sometime after we did the song, and towards the end of his life, he became huge again, and he'd been huge in the 70s. But at that point, he wasn't a massive name in Britain at least, you know, not on the tip of everybody's lips at that point in time. He was still a very well-known person. He wasn't quite the legend he had been or would become before he died.
Yeah.
So I think we got him at a good time when he would happily do fun stuff just for the lols.
Yeah, I can kind of imagine you probably having a bunch of creative ideas for your career and think, oh, let's go and get, you know, Madonna or whoever. And you just go, no, I'm not going to bother. But it's always worth asking.
There was a thing Bill Drummond from the KLF said in his book about working with Tammy Wynette. They were in the studio working, and Jimmy said, you know who'd be great on this record? Tammy Wynette. And Bill realised that there was a phone next to him, and somewhere in the world there was a phone next to Tammy Wynette. All he had to do was find out how to get to that phone. So he phoned a bunch of people in record labels in the States, and within 20 minutes he was speaking to Tammy Wynette and planning this great hit record. And that was sort of the same with us, without realising it, with Rhinestone Cowboy. Somebody just said, well, why don't we get Glenn to do it? And sequences occurred, and there we were in his house.
Fantastic. Are there any kind of crazy mega superstars that you would love to collaborate with, dead or alive, that you never have?
Alive, yes, thank you. I don't know. I don't think so. I've never really thought about it. Yeah, I'll come back to it at the end. I'll see if I thought of somebody, but
okay,
not really.
All right, we'll go back to YouTube. Okay, YouTube comment from, see if you can guess who it's from as well.
Was it me? I posted something insulting on my
Someone said, Madam, it's a damn fine groove.
Is Daz posted that?
Daz posted
that. Sounds like something Daz would post.
Second YouTube comment on this song was Blackpool Power Tower.
Is that Hacker T-Doc?
And the third, we'll see. The third comment I'm going to read out is, it's nice to think about the raccoons now and then.
Oh, Run With Us.
Yeah, it's Run With Us by Spray.
Yes,
so,
that's the band that me and my sister have had since we were children, this sort of synth duo. And back in the EMI years, we were working with some producers who came up with the idea of doing a dance version of the Raccoons thing, and that blew our minds. That's what a great idea. Why has nobody done that? The Raccoons being this cartoon series from Canada that was on throughout the 80s, and you'll see it on Saturday morning TV in the 80s and stuff like that. And it was a fairly perfunctory, sort of moralistic cartoon about some raccoons, funnily enough. But the closing theme tune was just this brilliant pop song, and so if everybody remembers it, it's never been a legitimate hit. So we decided we'd cover it. It's become our sort of signature song as well. The Spray never really made it particularly massive, but out of all the things we've ever done, it's sort of one that's caught the most people's attention. It's such a great. It's a classic cover version. It hasn't been a hit, and people have sort of forgotten about it, and yet everybody sort of knows it as well. It's that beautiful kind of symbiosis of events.
So Spray is it's the current project now, though, isn't it?
It will never. It's been my sister, so we can't really split up because otherwise it'll make Christmas is awkward. But yeah, ever since we were kids, we've had tapes and things knocking around the house, and Jenny's been able to sing, and I've been able to manipulate sounds, and we started writing and recording songs when we were like 13, 14, and it just evolved over the years. And the Cuban Boys, Jenny was involved with that as well as vocalist and things. And I think part of the reason the Cuban Boys wasn't more of a success than it was is because we got bored with it very quickly and wanted it to be Spray. We wanted Spray to be having all the success and not the Cuban Boys, so we got kind of distracted with that. But it continues to stay, and we started touring as well. We were a pure studio construct for many, many years, and in 2018 we decided to start playing live. So now we tour the regions with our neon synth pop.
So is it? Do you feel a different, stronger chemistry as it's your sister you're working with on that kind of music compared to anyone else?
Yeah, we have a laugh all the time, and obviously being siblings, we can say whatever we like to each other without it causing ructions.
Yeah,
that's absolute garbage, I can say to her, and she'll tell me that my stuff's completely brilliant, and that's the way it works.
Great. It sounds like you forged that with her from, like you say, from a very early age in a kind of family home, and you kind of discovered music together in a way. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
that's it. I mean, she was always the musical one as a kid. She could sing and I couldn't, and she enjoyed pop music, and I like boring stuff like Jean-Michel Jarre. So she got a keyboard, I think, when we were kids, and I just worked out a way of playing it so that the drums worked at the same time as the bass line, at the same time as the keys, and it was the first thing musically I'd ever done, just pressing one button. And it was this whole world exploded in front of me. And then, my mother said, "Oh, get Jane to sing on these silly things you're doing." And obviously she did, and it evolved from that. But yeah, it's never been a particularly urgent career we've had. We've just sort of done things over the years, and it's sort of, it ticks over. It keeps us. We have fun.
I guess it's like that kind of family relationships, isn't it? It's always there to go back to. And,
Well, we did stop. We did 2 albums in the noughties, and I think after Eurovision, me and Daz did a few more production things, and Spray sort of stopped doing stuff because we thought, what's the point? There's nobody's really listening to it. But then it became apparent that Bandcamp became a thing, and the charts started doing streaming to get in the charts. So we thought, we can just do Spray whenever we want. We can just stick out songs willy-nilly, if need be.
And I believe some of the recent releases for Spray have been on Analog Trash. Terrible
corporate overlords. they just really are very, very sinister.
Could you tell us about your connection with Analog Trash, how you know those guys and how it came about?
The band Vion pitched in to fill a support slot when the act couldn't do it for Spray in 2018, and I just asked, I didn't ask, I sent my sister to ask Adrian because it was a bit scary. I sent my sister to ask Adrian if he'd release our next album, and fortunately they seemed to like what we were doing over at Analog Trash, and so they put it out, so we've been there ever since. Purely out of laziness, we can't be bothered to go anywhere else. It's better. No, they're very good, I'm just joking.
Great stuff. Okay. Back to you, Chip.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nathan B said of this song of yours, "This is a bloody banger." It could be anything. Second one, "You have reawakened my childhood, thank you."
Yeah. Is that like a T-dog?
And and finally, "Please do D'Artagnan next."
Oh, the Pound Shop Boys.
Yeah, so it was the Pound Shop Boys and Fireman Sam.
Oh, another friend of mine, Phil Fletcher, who this all works. This all follows on from each other. Because I met the guy Phil Fletcher because he was a fan of Spray, and one day I asked this friend request on Facebook, and there was this fella and all these puppets around him. So I investigated further. It turns out he's the man behind TV's Hacker T-Dog, the sarcastic gonk that's on all the memes these days. And he came round, and we got on extraordinarily well and became firm friends. And at one point, we were out drinking, and he said, "I always fancied the idea of doing Fireman Sam in the side of the Pet Shop Boys," because he had the Fireman Sam cassette as a kid, and it was just to him another pop song amongst all the stuff. So I said, "Oh, why don't we do it?" So we recorded a version of Fireman Sam in the style of the song Pandemonium by the Pet Shop Boys, and called it Ponty Pandemonium because Pontypandy is where Fireman Sam comes from, and that's actually a very good joke, so you can now all laugh. But yeah, again, it was a stupid thing we did for fun, without really thinking about it, and then all of a sudden we're doing all these other songs, and we're getting YouTube viral smash sensations, millions and millions of views and stuff, which is rather unusual. Because Phil is a big TV star doing Hacker T-Dog, he doesn't quite push the Pound Shop Boys as much as I'd like. I would quite like if every TV appearance he did, he mentioned the Pound Shop Boys. He refuses to do that. So we've had all the success largely off our own backs rather than cashing in on Hacker's fame. But it's certainly the most fun thing we do, and also it's the easiest thing to do because whenever we play live, I don't have to actually do anything. I just stand behind the keyboard and look serious. I don't really get involved. So it's a win-win situation all counts, and probably my favourite project we're doing.
And is that also an ongoing project that you kind of dip back into now and again?
Yeah, we did 2 singles this year. We were supposed to do 3. We had this idea of doing. Do you know the film Killer Clowns from Outer Space? By any chance?
I've heard of it.
It's a horror film. It's got a great theme tune. We thought of doing that for Halloween this year, but Phil's been so busy. Acker's suddenly taken off again doing Freshers Weeks and things like that. That he's had absolutely no time to come around and actually record it, so it's been shelved for another year, sadly. But the Pound Shop Boys is a continuing,
great,
and it will never end.
I'm curious to know, with the Pound Shop Boys, do you have any Pet Shop Boys fans' reactions, particularly in love with it or hate it, or?
We were described on a Pet Shop Boys website as almost like an art project, rather than because everything we do is so similar to what the Pet Shop Boys do, like a deconstruction of them. And we went to see, me and the good Mrs. Autobahn went to see the Pet Shop Boys Funny Girls in Blackpool a couple of months ago, and somebody recognised Phil there as being in the Pound, not from his hacker work, from being in the Pound Shop Boys, which was very exciting for us. So the Pet Shop Boys and the Pound Shop Boys fans, there is some sort of crossover, and the Pet Shop Boys have said we're very funny.
So they are very aware of you. And
not aware at all, they just said very funny. They're the only two words the Pet Shop Boys ever said about us. Very funny, and that's what we're clinging on to, and hope that one day they'll finish that sentence.
did you have a genuine love of the Pet Shop Boys?
Yeah, we're both huge fans of the Pet Shop Boys. We adore them. Yeah, so you can we try and recreate their sound as accurately as possible, and you couldn't do that if you didn't like them.
Yeah. So who would do a Pound Shop spray?
You think somebody should if only we were that famous and successful and popular and likeable. Well, yeah,
I don't know. I kind of think you do lots of kind of remixes, mashups of things. Could anyone do a mashup of a mashup? Or is that taking it too far?
That's taking it too far. That's idiocy. That's stupid. What are stupid things
Is the kind of thing maybe you could do? Mashup of your own mashups? I don't know.
I'll give it a go. I'll write it down when we finish. I'll do it. I'll give it a go. I don't know what you mean, but I'll have a go.
Okay, we're gonna in a minute hand over to the audience and do a bit of Q&A. I just wanted to kind of finish off this bit by asking you about the music industry in general. When I look back on all the things you've done, there's an enormous sense of fun and entertainment throughout it. And I sometimes feel that's lacking in today's music industry, and everything is a little serious. I wonder if you agree, and if so, can we change it? Are we doomed?
I think we're doomed. The idea of novelty records and fun records has been supplanted by viral memes and things like that. Everything, the concept of the novelty record doesn't really exist anymore, but things like Gangnam Style do, which would have been a great novelty record 20 years previously. But yeah, the sense of fun. That's the thing, I don't understand why bands aren't funnier. They come up with funny videos and funny song titles or album titles and whatever, but the actual content of the song is always deathly serious. Nobody seems to enjoy larking about anymore, which is a shame, I always thought. But we were fortunate, I think, when we were there in the industry that the internet was very small, but everybody was talking about it. So the Cuban Boys being the internet band, then we could really get away with a lot of stuff that maybe other major label acts couldn't, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I also think that if I think back to like the 90s kind of landscape and a little bit into the noughties, it was just a time of a lot of change. The internet, I think you mentioned there, is one key component of that. It just felt like people felt a lot looser about what they could try. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we got away with loads of stuff at EMI that I wasn't expecting, like song title. And we were kind of expecting that it would be straitjacketed by all sorts of PR people and things like that. And nowadays you would be, and I don't know anybody who works in the major label anymore that would be replaced by new media experts and things like that. So everything is so laser focused these days that kind of chaotic approach that we had would not fly anymore. When we were at EMI, the chairs were like this. It was old chairs in a scruffy office in the back corner, not the glass tabled sort of pretentiousness you expect. It was all very rough and ready, and that was enjoyable. It was likeable. You knew the money was there, but it wasn't being spent on chairs.
Yeah, and I think you've got a KLF badge on. I know you had a song reference in the KLF.
Oh yeah.
And it makes me think again, going back to those kind of times. I think the big labels didn't squash those kind of spirited characters in that time, whereas maybe they would now when they squash them with new media strategies.
Spotify was supposed to level the playing field, so if you're on KLF Communications, whether you're on Sony Records, it was all the same. Everybody got the same visibility, as it were. But it didn't really work out like that. It still seemed that the major labels were able to pay their way into playlists, and the indie labels still sort of floundering, going under all the time.
Yeah. I mean, for you, you had what gave you a real injection was like John Peel grabbing hold of something. Yeah, I wonder what the equivalent of that is nowadays.
There is, yeah. I've sent stuff to Six Music this year, various solo tracks, techno tracks I've done, and they've got played on Six Music, so you can still do that. You can still send things just off unsolicited and they'll play them. But it doesn't seem to lead to anything. Nobody latches onto it, it doesn't sort of expand without a bit of a promo push, without a marketing department getting behind it and giving you the full beans.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to hand over to the audience. If you've got any
those idiots.
Any questions, just stick your hand up.
Ben?
Ben Baker, Exchange and Mark.
Yes, it's Alf. My favourite show is Alf.
Thank you, that's all I was asking. You want to collaborate with Paul Fusco?
Oh yes, Ben and I run an Alf-themed podcast, Alf, the 1980s sitcom. And one of my latest projects has been sampling Alf and making a techno record out of it, in the style of all the things I've done in the past. Just to prove it can still be done, but as of yet it's not gone viral. It's gone the opposite of viral. It's just caught a virus.
Antiviral.
Antiviral, we've got antiviral. Write that down. Okay. But no, that's my latest project is doing the podcast with Ben and this Alf track, which I'm desperately thinking should be a massive hit if anybody remembered Alf, which they don't, so it's not.
True.
Okay, cool, thank you. Anybody? Yes?
You didn't mention your collaboration with the Lancashire Hot Pots.
The glorious Lancashire Hot Pots.
Another part of that, were you involved in their early day or pre-Hot Pot days of rediffusion?
No, but this is interesting. Lancashire Hot Pots are a comedy folk band. You must be aware of the Lancashire Hot Pots.
Yeah.
They're a comedy folk band who sing about modern technological things in an old school style, basically. And they're very good. And my friend, the Autobahn's friend, Diggy Ticker, is their lead singer. And we did a couple of, because we're friends, we ended up working together. So I produced their current single, and we did a cover version of the old Woolworths advert, Cracking Christmas at Woolworths together, Spray and the Hot Pots together. But back in the old days, this is around the time of Rhinestone Cowboy, they were on the Chris Moyles show under the name Moped, doing scooter parodies. And Dickie did indeed email me at the time, because we were both in the same sort of sphere, as it were. Chris Moyles, Novelty Records, Wally Party Records. And I didn't think about this for years later, until after we'd become friends, I realised he was the same person who had emailed me all those years ago, and the two things never connected. So no, I never did work with him in the old days, but it could have happened.
He did a dance version of Dad's Army Team, didn't
he? He did, yes. There's loads of stuff he keeps churning out, he keeps plucking out from yesteryear that I had no idea existed. We did, one of the ideas me and Daz did, one of the ideas that got lost along the way was a version of the snooker theme, Drag Race by Doug somebody.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We did a dance version of that, and it was massive, it was just brilliant, it should have been a huge hit, but at the same time some other urchins had done a dance remix of it, and it became their theme tune on TV, and that was Dickie Ticker from the Lancashire Hot Pots, again, secretly ruining my ideas. It's just interesting how these weird coincidences and things and links and chains and threads sort of create a pop career throughout the years.
That kind of makes me think, do you find certain things work in different countries as well? Like it might just not take on here, but in I don't know.
We did an old song Tarzan Boy by Baltimore.
Yeah.
We did a Rhinestone Cowboy of that, i.e. we took the chorus and got Daz to rap over it. And I don't know, that was a hit in Germany, it was a top 20 hit in Germany, but it never actually came out in Britain because, it was supplanted by Eurovision, and Eurovision took over at that point and the single never came out. So I don't know if that would have been a hit in Britain in the same way it was in Germany. I always felt that me and Daz should have been Germans. If we'd been German and born like 5 years earlier than we were, we'd have had a massive career somewhere. but no, we had to be born in Britain and everybody's all cool in Britain, and how idiots they are.
Well, you haven't done too bad. Any more questions, guys? Yes.
How did the Golden Age of video come about? That appears ago.
Well, the Golden Age video was this song I did in 2009, and it was a load of film samples, but they were all cut together so that they rhymed and made a pop song out of. And inexplicably, it was retweeted in those nascent days of social media by Ashton Kutcher, the popular Hollywood actor, and it became a huge viral smash at the time. I didn't really know what to do with it after that. At the time, you have a viral smash in 2009, you don't really know what you're supposed to do then. So it sort of rumbled on over the years. But it was a throwback to starting creating music with my sister in like the late 80s. I loved the sound of film samples or just general found audio with music playing underneath it. I do things like I'd record the Radio 4 news and play music under it. It would just sound dramatic and weird. So everything we've done has always had little snippets of found sound audio dialogue in it, like the Amsterdams did. Also because the sound quality is always quite interesting as well. There's a graininess about it. It gives it something. So ultimately, I was doing this now many years on pretty much all my records, and then I did the Golden Age of video. I thought I'll put everything into that, then at least I'll get it out of the system, and I'll never do it again, and people will stop getting sick of it. And that was really the reason for doing it, just to get rid of all these samples that were clogging up my hard drive. And it's still popular to this day. People still like it, which is nice. That's fun.
Certainly.
It got on telly and stuff. It was kind of a big deal, you know. Around the world, people were emailing me saying, "I've seen your video on such and such on American or Australian TV." But I just had no way of monetising it at the time. You didn't really know what to do.
Okay, great.
Well, tell us about your friend Cliff Richard.
I had a battle with Cliff Richard for Christmas #1. Good question. Yeah. No, yeah, when the House Dance came out, it was up against Cliff's dreadful Millennium Prayer record. And so the marketing decided to start this big feud. There really was a feud that didn't generate it between me and Cliff. And he was always very nice about everything except the hamsters. All the other records from the charts, Westlife and John Lennon, he would treat them with the respect that they did not deserve. And he always used to say he hated the hamsters. But I never met him. But I met his people once at a function, and they said he was scared of me, which I've never been proud of, to be honest. Cliff Richard being scared of me and having Alan Sugar block me on Twitter are my two proudest moments.
Can I ask what got you blocked by Alan Sugar?
He said something mildly racist, and I said that we were only one tweet away from Alan being replaced by Richard Branson on the next series of The Apprentice. And he said, "Shut up, you fucking twat." But it's sensitive because he's a coward. And then he blocked me, which I was delighted by that. My mother was really proud. But no, Cliff.
Yeah, sorry, I derailed us from Cliff.
He went on news round, he called me awful. My sister came running downstairs and Cliff's just called you awful on the news. It was quite exciting. But sadly, I'd like to meet him, but he probably won't remember any of this now. Not that he's mentally infeasible. I was just a tiny part of his life. He won't even remember the record, to be honest. Oh no, not gone. I did when he'd gone on news round and called us awful. I did phone up the press department and said, "Here's my quote for the Sun: God will smite him down." And they refused to send it out for some reason. That could have made all the difference.
Brilliant, I love it. Good questions. Well, yeah. Any other questions? No.
Tell us about Jonathan King.
Oh, good old Jonathan King. What did happen to Jonathan King?
I did a musical.
Oh, yeah.
It's on YouTube, you should watch it.
I don't think I will. Yeah, Jonathan King was our manager, and this is interesting because he was like, with Jonathan King on board, we were completely invincible because he was like a huge industry figure. Everybody remembers him for his wacky pop records and his TV career in the 80s. But by the 90s, he was like a consultant for every single major label, and he could open doors everywhere. And this may be part of the reason the Q Boys failed, because we had no sense of peril. We knew that if EMI dropped us, we'd just go somewhere else and get even more money. We were completely invincible. Then we were recording a song called Drink, Drink, Drink about a year after the Hamster Dance. This was November 2000, and we hadn't had much success that year, but we were moving to BMG to do this single. And at the BMG, people had come down to the studio and heard it, and they said, "This is fantastic, here's £50,000, and we were dancing around, and I said, I bet something going to go really horribly wrong now to ruin this. And it was the next morning we were driving back home again, and the Radio 1 News was on, and the headline was, Jonathan King. And there was a little pause. And in that pause, I thought, oh, what's the wacky funster done now? And it has been arrested on charges of sex crimes. And that was it was all over. We were tainted by association, and we never did get our £50,000. Not that that's an excuse for his crimes, that was for bad crimes. But I'd like the money as well. But you know, he's a nice fella, yeah, just like he was in the telly. But he was very much like the Simon Cowell of his era, in that he was a spanner in the music industry works, at the same time as being completely sort of there. Every single person in the business knew him. So we went from being invincible to being complete outcasts overnight. It was our rise and fall was quite spectacular. I don't think there's been a rise and fall as spectacular in the entire history of pop.
And that would make a good book.
It would make a good book. I need another hit, you see, to end my book. I need to end on a high, and as it's been another disastrous debacle for the last 20 years, I haven't really had one yet. But I will.
So what are your current projects and plans for achieving that?
Well,
hit
that's
to
the
finish
best
the book?
chance, I think, is the Hackatee Dog record. Phil and Hackatee Dog have been out on the Fresher circuit recently, performing to students who remember them from 10 years ago. And there's a song that we wrote called Meat Pernish, Get It Down Your Furnace. Because Hacker's favourite food is meat pernish, that's his thing. And it's gone down really amazingly well with the students, so I'm insisting we're going to release it. We've currently got a pitch out to Idols to do a remix of it as well, so we'll go full beans trying to get this as a hit. And if it does become a hit, I shall finally write that book. The Hacker will be here, by the way, in a couple of months' time, at the Cube Boys Christmas gig. Hacker will be acting as host and compare. Compare without compare, Hackatee Dog on this very stage. So please, come one, come all, come some.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. I think that's a great way to end it.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming, but most of all, and a round of applause for Ricardo Autobahn. Thank you all for supporting Town Festival. Please keep an eye out for all the other events that are coming over the next 9 days and attend as many as you can. Thank you. Thank you guys. Cheers. Thank you.